The Marketing Review with Cambridge Marketing Colleges. Visit marketingcollege.com to see our courses.
Good evening and welcome to the Marketing Review with Cambridge Marketing Colleges. I'm your host, Kiran Kapoor, and coming up on the show, we will be looking at marketing using email with Kieran Cooper. But first, I'm delighted to be joined by Anne Godfrey, Chief Executive of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, otherwise known as the CIM. Anne was appointed 18 months ago and she's embarked on a huge change management programme at the CIM. Anne, welcome to the show. Shall we start with what the CIM is?
Of course we can. We are a not-for-profit membership organisation representing 35,000 members globally.
And I know that when you took over sort of 18, 19 months ago, you came in with plans to make a lot of changes. So how did you find the organisation when you first arrived?
Passionate in all the right and wrong ways. We are typical of individual membership bodies in that people who join care, and with that care comes passion, and with that passion comes the need to deal with it. And again, like most bodies with kind of chartered in front of the name, we have to redesign or re-engineer what we are in the 21st century. So the things that people joined for 103 years ago aren't the things they want from us now. So all the changes that I've been looking at delivering are about making us more relevant, engaging not just with our members, much as we love them, but hopefully as many marketers around the world as we can.
That's great. So can you just give me an idea of all the various things that the CIM does? It's an organisation of many parts.
It certainly is. Let's split it into three. So obviously we encourage people to join and become members. For that, they get learning content, they get networking opportunities, they have an opportunity by region or by sector to get together with their peers. Learning is another big part of what we do, and I would split that probably into two. We have our formal qualifications. So you would start on a journey with us and end up with a postgraduate diploma in marketing, not just academic, so very much about theory, but theory into practice. And then there's the wider learning. So we encourage any marketer, no matter what age, gender, wherever they are in the world, to commit to professional development. And increasingly that isn't just reading books, that's looking at webinars, listening to podcasts, and it's just something I would expect of marketers is to continue to want to grow. And a big part of what CIM does, and it's many different bits, is try and support that learning.
You said that you used three areas, so is that membership and the two sides of learning, or is there another one as well?
I could probably do 10. I would split it into three if I was being the easy option. So one would be membership and all the support and the network that comes with it. One would be the formal education, so our formal qualifications from introductory certificate all the way up to postgraduate diploma. And the other, although it's an artificial divide, would be our informal learning, so webinars, in-company training. But actually, when you look at what members get from us, they pick and choose. We have, I think, 63 different membership benefits because we've just counted them all. And I would say that most members know about 10, and each one would tick off different bits of it at different stages in their career. 63,
wow, I must admit, I've been a member I was trying to work it out this morning, it was quite more years than I probably want to admit on air, and I didn't know there were 63 benefits. That's quite impressive.
It's very impressive. I don't think we knew there were 63 either until we went and counted, and most of them are being used. I'd say some of them haven't been dusted down for quite some time, and we're now trying to make sure that people like you, who've had a long commitment to CIM, are completely up to speed as we now are about all the things that we've got to give you.
Yes, one of the things I know, because I do use it as a member, is your knowledge and the library down there. And we've had Dawn Southgate, your head of knowledge, on the programme a couple of times doing book reviews. When you started at CIM and you did come in with a change agenda, how did you just prioritise what you wanted to change?
Oh, wow. Well, we kind of did what marketers do. So we looked at our goals and discovered that they weren't clear. So we went and talked to customers and potential customers and decided on what our objectives would be. So we came up with 5. So 4 of those objectives stroke goals, pick a word, are about our customers. So we decided we were here to be the voice of the profession, to support individual professionals throughout their career, to support the businesses that marketers work within, and also to be the voice of the consumer, to explain to consumers what they should expect from professional marketers. So having set, if you like, those external goals, we then looked at what we, CIM, needed to be to deliver. So the fifth goal was our own internal one, which was the change piece. We did that in 6 months last year, and that was really what kind of people, what skills, what technology do we need as an organisation to be delivering to all those marketers. And we had a lot of fun last year. We did a lot of change really, really quickly, and probably more change in 6 months than this organisation had done in the previous debate 10, 20 years, and we survived.
Yes, and to prove it, you are still here. I know one of your ambitions was to look at how CIM stacks up amongst other membership bodies. So you said we have 63 benefits, which I'm still impressed about. But how does the CIM stack up against other membership bodies like, I don't know, the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, the CIPD, or somewhere like that?
Well, we have, I call it a self-help group, and my fellow chief execs would probably hit me for that, but it feels like that occasionally. So 5 of us get together quite regularly, and I mentioned bodies with chartered in front. So the ones I think we are closest to in terms of what we do, but also in terms of what we're facing, would be CIPD. So the HR professionals, they are, like us, not regulated. So there is no licensed practice to be a marketer or an HR professional. And again, like us, individual membership, so people can choose to pay or not pay. Another that I talk to regularly is SIPs, so procurement, so the buying population. Again, a growing population, one that's very important to marketers, but again, a membership body like us that have faced challenges. And then CMI, so the Chartered Management Institute. So those 4, plus CIMA as representative of the accountants, get together and look at where we are in our change piece, how we're each solving problems, how we're delivering great stuff, and learn from one another, because we're not competitive. We're all trying to support businesses. We all have a range of benefits, some of which are individual, some of which are corporates, and some of us do different things better. So we try and learn from each other and try something out, and if it works, make sure that the other chief exec knows so they can do it too.
And would you say that the CIM membership benefits do stack up well compared to the others?
I would say this, wouldn't I? Our new qualifications that we're currently launching are world-class. I think they will be genuinely world-class when we start delivering them in September. I think I would be comfortable putting them up against any other chartered body's qualifications. I think bits of our learning are approaching world-class, but could be better. I would say that our corporate training, which we don't tell anybody about, is pretty special. But I think we probably have things to learn from people like SIPs who go in and kite mark entire departments. So things that I think we could learn from other bodies is how to benchmark and then deliver to entire teams, not just individuals. But and you mentioned it, our knowledge, if you like, our content. So whether it's the access you get physically through the library, but more importantly, the content that we deliver virtually, I think stacks up to any professional body anywhere.
One of the things I know that you've been looking at are the professional standards. And I understand you've got some new professional standards coming out.
We have. It's the thing that sets us apart, actually. That a professional body should own professional standards is strangely unusual, which I didn't know till I came here. So we've had professional marketing standards for several decades, and they were very hierarchical. So they very much took a marketer and did the things you can't do about age demographics. So it took it from a 21-year-old marketing assistant all the way up to a CMO, and kind of assumed that in an area, a kind of whole range of areas of expertise, that you would move from one level to another, which of course isn't how people move around these days. So what we've done is we've gone out and done a load of research to talk to marketers and their employers about what capabilities and competencies they now want from their marketers and their marketing team. And we've redeveloped the entire framework from scratch. We're about to launch it, and more importantly, we're going to build all of our learning offers. So our new qualifications, for example, are built to deliver what the research told us that people wanted in terms of standards. And the interesting thing for me is, I'm going to paraphrase what my learning director calls it, spiky profiles. There you go. Today's phrase is spiky profiles. We would expect every marketer to have the core, so to champion the customer, to understand insights. But then as you move through your career, you'll specialise. So a digital specialist would spike, if you were to assess them, really high on digital expertise and would be what we'd call authoritative. But they'd be really low on brand. And actually, that's not a problem at that stage in their career because they're being paid to be a specialist. But what we're now saying is as you move, you'll keep the core, but you'll have a whole range of technical areas that you might have to learn, either because you have to do them yourself or because you manage people who do them. And then around that, we've built, because it's what marketers and their employers said, behavioural competencies. So both marketers and their employers wanted marketers who could count. So metrics came out very highly. But more importantly, marketers who could manage people and talk to accountants. So there's an entire thing around the outside in terms of competencies, which is these are the behaviours we expect of you if you are a professional marketer. And we're very excited about them, as you can probably tell.
Yes, I can hear the excitement coming through. When are these going to be launched, Anne?
Well, we've been debating whether you can launch something that's a framework. So that's a conversation I'm having with my marketing team and PR agency at the moment, where we're probably going to build a story around it. So when we, as we are doing now, do roadshows on the new qualifications, we're building in the story about the development of the competency framework as part of it. I'm not sure that sending out a kind of classic press statement saying CIM has launched new standards is that sexy. But I do think building an entire offer and career development and a competency framework around them is. So everything you see coming from us, whether it's marketing of our learning, marketing of our qualifications, will have the framework there as what we're using as the underlying infrastructure.
Anne, thank you so much for sparing us the time and coming on the show. We've really appreciated it.
You're more than welcome.
The Marketing Review with Cambridge Marketing Colleges. Enhance your career with Cambridge Marketing Colleges.
Anne, thank you for taking the time to come on to the show. And next time, we'll air the second part of Anne's interview when she discusses the new Chartered Institute of Marketing qualifications. And now I'm delighted to welcome Kieran Cooper, who is an expert on using marketing for email. Kieran, you've been on the show before talking about your arts marketing background. And as part of that, you said that with arts marketers, you had some great database to play with. And I suspect your interest in email marketing came from that.
Yes, absolutely. 20 years ago, we were sending out, letters in the post for direct marketing. That was, the only means we had of speaking directly to customers other than phoning them up. Now, email for arts organisations and for everybody has become a great tool for communicating with customers in an effective way. What I think is quite interesting now is how it's sort of simultaneously the absolute backbone of any customer communication for anybody, however high tech. As people keep pointing out, you can't sign up for a Facebook or a Twitter account unless you have an email account. So, email is there, it's fundamental. But it's desperately unsexy. And people don't want to talk about it or be associated with it in any way, which seems very odd. Even about 5 years ago, I went to the South by Southwest Interactive Conference in Texas, where Jack Dorsey had given a talk at the conference, and that had been where Twitter had really taken off. It's where the kind of interesting tech things happen, and nobody wanted to talk about email. It was like, well, I won't say what it was like, but it felt very odd to be going there as an email company and talking about it. But as I say, it is still fundamentally not only the most ubiquitous way, but I think the best way of that kind of contact, because you can't do any kind of direct messaging in the same sort of way, I don't think. In Facebook, messages feel very much more personal and not a space where I think corporate should be getting in. And yes, running corporate Facebook pages is one thing, but we're not talking about direct messaging. You could DM someone on Twitter, but, get your message down to 140 characters if you can. So it's still the best way for being able to engage with customers, and it still feels interactive. It hasn't yet quite got to the point where direct mail has now, where it went through that thing of being so overused that I think people don't treat a direct mail piece as they would treat a letter in the same kind of personal way.
It's called junk mail for a reason, isn't it?
Precisely. And I think email hasn't quite got there yet. And it's one of the things I spend a lot of time trying to say to email marketers, that the future is in our hands in terms of not overusing and debasing email as a medium, as a personal medium. Because, you just have to look at direct mail and see the danger of what might happen for companies who go in too sort of corporate and too kind of overly personal. But I think it hasn't got there, and so it's still very responsive, and of course it's relatively cheap, at least to send. There's quite a lot of stuff needs to be done in terms of getting good data and good creative. but at least it doesn't cost you 53p or whatever it is for each item you want to send.
So would you say that email marketing, really, the beginning is getting the data right?
Any kind of direct marketing lives or dies by the data. You can have the best creative in the world. If you send it to the wrong people, you might as well not have sent it at all. And if you're thinking at all of getting into fancy personalization or any of that sort of thing, if you get the data wrong, the bad effect that you can have from personalization when the data is poor are massively worse than having no personalization at all. If you send a message telling someone that thanking them for being a regular customer, or more likely saying, we note you've never been before, and you send it to someone who turns out to be one of your, regular, most frequent attenders, you're going to look very stupid. So data is fundamental, and both in terms of data quality, but also in terms of segmentation, because the next thing that makes email work is relevance. So segmentation is the first pillar of relevance, as it were, inventing a new marketing thing as I go. So then personalization is the next thing, but the two kind of stand side by side, and say you can have all the personalization in the world, but if you haven't got your segmentation right, then it won't work.
And segmentation, of course, is just, to remind our listeners, is just dividing up your customers so that you get the same type of customer together.
Yes, exactly. Thinking about your customers, as you say, in terms of how you can group them together, but ideally looking at it from the customer point of view. So grouping together customers by their needs rather than thinking, oh, well, we've got our products, let's market from a product point of view. So whether that's to do with how they relate to your company. Are they people who are new to your company? Are they people who are regularly active? Are they people who've bought from you before but have lapsed? Are they people with particular who buy particular types of products? So, the arts, for instance, if you're in a venue that does, comedy and theatre and dance, you might look at marketing to those people, grouping those people together to tell them about those types of events. I mean, the ultimate sort of direct marketing holy grail is that you want to talk one-to-one. If you had 10 friends and you wanted to tell them about something, you would probably write them 10 different communications, because you know that you saw Jane last week, so you don't need to tell her what happened 3 weeks ago, but you haven't seen Joe for 6 months, so you would supply a different kind of information to each of those people. That's ultimately what you want to do in direct marketing, whether it's email or letters or whatever. But we know that that's not feasible, both because you don't necessarily know that about your customers, but also just that it's the impossibility of sending out an individual piece of creative to everybody. But that's where you're heading. So all the kind of segmentation and personalization and what we might call dynamic email, where you're saying, based on these particular things that you know about this customer, then give them this piece of information or this piece of content. Your aim is to try and make the email that someone receives as relevant to them as possible.
And then the other side, you said, was the creative side, was to make your email interesting and relevant to them.
Yes, absolutely. The kind of language of email is an interesting one. I think there's always a danger of composing your marketing email a bit like the way people write Christmas card round robins. Never actually writing it to anybody, that sort of style. So, like any good copywriting exercise, when you're thinking about writing an email, you need to think about who it is that you're writing it for. You're not addressing a person individually, but you have to kind of think as if you are, taking into account those things about segmentation that we just talked about, so you have more of an idea about who it is that you're writing to. So the email can become more, not necessarily conversational, but more directed. And it's a subtle change, but it's one of those things I find that if you get into that mindset, the copy that comes out just seems to be the right side of relevant. But one of the other good things about email is, because the results are pretty instantaneous, both in terms of measuring engagement with the email, how many people open it, how many people click through on the link, or if you're selling stuff online, you can immediately monitor how many of these emails result in conversions to actual sales on the website, or other particular goals. If you're sending out an email and you want someone to download a PDF, you would count that as a goal and a conversion goal. You get instant feedback. Whatever happens to an email is going to happen within 48 hours of sending it, tops, probably within 8 hours or so. So you can very easily test different kinds of creative And lots of email systems now give you the possibility of sending a split test, A/B split test, they tend to call them, so that you can test subject line, for instance. You might say, okay, here's my list. I'm going to choose 5% and send them subject line A, 5% send them subject line B. After a day, I'll see which of those subject lines has performed the best in terms of the metrics that I talked about, and then I can send the 90% of the rest of the list can get the subject line that works. There's a school of thought that says you should never ever do an email campaign without testing something. Whilst that's I think that's probably written by an academic rather than someone responsible for an email marketing program. But it absolutely holds true. You've got so much possibility for testing creative and all the time refining that. And that's one of the things that makes it so exciting. It's not like saying, well, we're going to write the copy like this and this is how it's going to be for a year. It can be much more dynamic and fluid and changing at every moment.
Kieran, thank you. That was fascinating on email marketing. Are there sort of 3 tips you could give listeners as to how they might do email marketing?
Of course. Find a good software company to work with. There are loads out there and they all have their different pros and cons, but being able to have a system that makes it easy to create and send and, more importantly, monitor emails, that's a crucial thing. And there are reasons for running in-house systems for security or whatever. But most of the time these days you buy email as software as a service, so it's hosted in the cloud by other people, and there are great advantages to that. Secondly, as I said, think about data, because you can both drastically improve your email marketing and drastically hinder your email marketing by bad data. So have a look at what data have you got. Are there better ways that you can collect it? Are there ways that you can amalgamate it? But thinking simply, because, gosh, if I'd been a consultant on every project where someone said, let's have a data warehouse, I would be absolutely minted by now. Because lots of people talk about it, very few people actually ever manage to achieve it. Or if they do, it becomes warehouse in the sense of it's a warehouse that nobody ever goes to.
Yes, one can data warehouse far too much data, yes.
Exactly. So, think about it in terms of what data can I actually make use of in terms of segmentation, and then start from that point of view and then go out to look for it. But above all, consume as much as you can, sign up to lists, and too many people seem to form a kind of divide in their mind between themselves as consumer and what they do as a marketing person. Just engage your marketing brain when you look through your inbox. What are the campaigns that have made you click? And, what of those techniques can you use in your own marketing activity? It's not rocket science. That's
fantastic advice, Kieran. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
The Marketing Review with Cambridge Marketing Colleges. Visit marketingcollege.com to see our courses.
And that's it for the show this time. Next time, we will have the second half of the interview with Anne Godfrey of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, where she'll be talking about the new CIM qualifications. If you would like any more information, or you'd like to listen to the show again, then head over to star107.co.uk, where you can do just that. If you would like to get in touch with me, you can do just that at the Marketing Review Facebook page or at #CMC Points of View on Twitter. I've been your host, Kieran Kapoor. Many thanks for listening, and I'll catch you again in 2 weeks' time.
The Marketing Review with Cambridge Marketing Colleges. Enhance your career with Cambridge Marketing Colleges.